Hey folks, BlackCross here, and I bring to you today not really a review, but a first impressions video. And today's first impressions I'm going to be doing on Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now for the record, at the timing of this recording, I've mostly played through the demo that was released on March 2nd. So by the time this gets released, a lot of people will already be familiar with the fact that the demo got released, and a lot of people are probably playing it right now. And because of this being a demo, whatever is going on in the gameplay will most likely either be fixed or will be remedied in the main game. So whatever I say right now, don't hold it to it, as some of these problems that I have with the game might very well be fixed in the main game. But with that said, I feel like I want to go ahead and just kind of talk about it and give my first impressions as to what I felt about the game. So technically I played through the demo 3 times. The first time was just basically to, see it and everything like that, get familiar with the gameplay and stuff like that. And let's put it this way, after my first initial playthrough of the demo, I felt a little bit mixed about the gameplay, and when I did this is actually my second time recording this, but whenever I recorded it, I thought to myself, I was like, I need to play through it again just to see if maybe it was just me, maybe it was the game, I don't know. But either way, after the first initial playthrough, I then played it through 2 more times. The second time I played through using classic mode, and then the third time I basically played through it knowing the gameplay and knowing how to play it and everything of that nature. Basically, we'll talk about the gameplay and then we'll talk about classic mode. The gameplay, at first I didn't, how can I put this? A lot of people had similarities with Final Fantasy VII Remake with that of Kingdom Hearts, and I really wish people would stop comparing games to other games that maybe I don't know if they think they know, but in reality they don't know. It's sort of like the Dark Souls things, where the difficulty defined the genre of Dark Souls, and it's like, no, difficulty does not define a genre, whereas gameplay, however, is a different story. And when people say the games like Kingdom Hearts, I think of free-flowing gameplay. You're up and about, you're moving, you're able to cancellation certain moments and stuff like that. And in reality, Final Fantasy VII is not as flow as Kingdom Hearts is. In fact, if you were to compare it side by side in terms of flowing, in terms of gameplay, Kingdom Hearts is a lot more faster paced than Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, of course, some people will say differently, but I feel as if that the remake is a little bit slower in that sense. The gameplay, however, I have no arguments except for, at first, 2 problems. So the first problem with the gameplay is that you have 2 types of attack maneuvers. If you notice, in the main game, you have your basic attack, which is called Operator Mode, and then you have the secondary mode, which is Punisher Mode. Operator Mode is basically your base combo attack, and then Punisher is where you deliver a stronger attack pattern at a higher rate. So basically you have the normal attack and then strong attack, and depending on when you press the triangle button, you automatically switch to that mode. So every single time you start combat, you're automatically defaulted into Operator Mode. However though, when you try to switch into Punisher Mode, by pressing the triangle button, it doesn't register right off the back. The only way it will register is if you're not inputting a command of an attack, and then you can switch to Operator Mode. I know a few people will understand whenever I say this. When you try to switch between modes, it should be almost instantly, and instead, in this case, it's sort of like you have to wait until your attack combo is finished and you can activate Punisher Mode right then and there. And unfortunately that's not what's happening here. What's happening is that if you're not attacking or you're done doing a combo attack mode, then you automatically can switch into Punisher Mode to where you can continue on a string of combos if that is what you desire. And of course my ideal of combat is different to some people, but in this case the combat feels a little bit sluggish to some degree because of the register input. Again, like I said, it's not a big deal, but it can be something that some people will notice right off the back, where they try to initiate the Punisher mode, but it doesn't activate right away, and that's only because you have to be making certain that you're not inputting any other attack pattern while trying to switch into Punisher mode. So if it doesn't make sense right off the back, I'm sure some people will understand where I'm getting at. Think of like Devil May Cry gameplay, you know, how quickly you are able to switch between Gunslinger and all that stuff. Think of it like that, and then try putting in Final Fantasy. You would think to yourself that this would work in that same light, but it doesn't. Unfortunately, again, you have to wait until the combo, or if you're not initiating a combo, and then you could switch it into operator mode. And the secondary problem that I had was, of course, the shortcut menu. Now, if you don't know, in the game, you are able to access a command menu where you can select either different abilities, spells, followed by items that you can use. However, much like in Kingdom Hearts, where you have a shortcut option to where you can assign items, spells, and summons, the same can be said in Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you do have a shortcut option to where you can assign different abilities and spells of your liking. The problem at the time, though, was that unfortunately it felt like it didn't register as much, but it sort of falls into the same problem as the operator/Punisher maneuver problem, and that is the fact that you have to be certain that you're not initiating a combo, much less being attacked from another enemy, or otherwise the initial ability will not kick in. So in other words, you have to make certain that you're not in mid-combo, or you're not receiving damage from an enemy in order to initiate different abilities. It does feel a little bit slow by that standards, but in a sense, it's not as bad as the way I describe it. It's just bad in the sense that it's not as free flow as how people described it to be, like that of Kingdom Hearts. But aside from those problems, I really don't have any major problem with the gameplay of Final Fantasy VII Remake. If nothing else, I actually kind of like it. It does take a little bit of getting used to the gameplay, and by the time you do get used to it, you'll suddenly have an actual flow of how the gameplay is. Again, it's a little bit slower than Kingdom Hearts, but in a sense, it does work for this game. A lot of people will probably be asking, well, how does switching characters between back and forth work? Well, I'm happy to say that it works really well, actually. In fact, I've actually found myself switching between Cloud and Barret relatively easy, and it's really good. It's almost instant. And I say almost instant, meaning that as you're switching between characters, it does take a second or two to transfer to the next character, but it's not a bad thing. It, again, much like the operator mode, followed by the shortcut option, it is a little bit slow, but not enough to be a mood kill to the game. Now, of course, that being said, we must talk about classic mode, because when this was introduced, a lot of people was kind of mixed about how this would work, and at first I thought it was like, oh, it's going to be an actual turn-based game. But no, it's not the case at all. In fact, the reality is that it's more or less of the characters attack, defend, evade when necessary, but you get to initiate the individual abilities, spells, items whenever needed to. And at first glance, you know, when looking at videos and stuff like that, it seems like it'd be interesting, but actually trying to, you know, go through it and stuff with classic mode on, I actually found myself not enjoying it. I'm sure there's some people who would enjoy it, because that means that they don't have to worry about being in a sense of urgency. But here's the thing, classic mode is always going to be on easy mode. There is no difficulty settings for classic mode. Classic mode is an automatic setup for easy mode. And in a sense, it works, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't like the fact that the character is making the decision itself. It's almost like as though as if it would be better if I just watched the game rather than play the game, you know? You're still able to move the character and stuff like that, but as for like interacting in battles and stuff like that, because of classic mode, it's not an option that I would probably use. At that point, you might as well just say it's no longer a game at that point. So, in my personal opinion, I don't see myself using classic mode, but instead I actually would see myself using either easy or normal mode, because I am still interacting in combat. And personally for me, I probably would still use normal mode, preferably, because of the challenge. But aside from that though, what about the rest of the game, you know? What about the graphics, voice acting, stuff like that? The graphics for this game, as you would expect, are on par amazing. Keep in mind, I have an original PS4, I do not have a PS4 Pro, so if I say it looks amazing, to everybody else it probably looks jaw-dropping amazing, you know, considering the fact the 4K resolution and stuff, but I'm watching at a normal resolution. But this game looks absolutely outstanding. It's kind of hard to believe. The vision that you see from where PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy VII, and then you see the advancement in the PlayStation 4, you start to realize this is actually real. This isn't a mock-up, this isn't a dream. No, this is a real live render and modern version of Final Fantasy VII. And it works really well. It looks beautiful, everything is where it needs to be at, and the detailing is just, it's insane. I could go on and tell you all the detail that is visibly there, from the hair movement of Cloud to being able to see the inside of a building through a mirror and stuff like that, or not through a mirror, through the windows. It's kind of insane to believe that the quality has been that far apart, and I think that's part of the reason why the game was put into 2 Blu-ray discs, so that it could handle that much rendering going on in the background. But that's just part of the reason. Probably the other parts is obviously whatever new thing they add on into the game, followed by the additional missions that you can access to in the game. So whenever that comes out, we'll definitely see the full version and be able to experience all of it that Square has developed. However, as for the voice acting, I'm going to tell you right now, the voice acting in this one is amazing. Every character has a voice, and that voice matches up perfectly. I'm sure some people would probably have a different idea of which character, what voice actor character would be, but these characters that they've assigned for FF7 Remake fits perfectly in my personal opinion, and really it resonates well with the game, and it stands out to a certain point of excellence in my personal opinion. So real quickly, just to summarize, the way the voice acting, the graphics and everything like that, the music, everything is perfect practically. My only complaint is that the gameplay is a little bit on the slow end, you know. It's not too much, but depending on the person, they may resonate well with this style, but who's to say really. Again, classic mode is probably something that I don't see myself using, because it doesn't function the way I think it would have worked, and instead it more or less just kind of a lazy man's way of playing a game, I guess you could say. But in my personal opinion, this is really good. This is really positive in my personal opinion. And again, because of this being a demo, hopefully the final version might improve a few things. Maybe by the time the real version comes out, they'll fix the little situation with switching in between operator mode and Punisher mode, and maybe they might improve how you're able to use the shortcut options, abilities, and stuff of that nature. Either way though, it's still all good in my personal opinion. So guys, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the demo of FF7 Remake, and I shall see you in the next video. Take care, guys.